My name is Amanda Kleiber, and I'm a nurse at the local hospital. And then I just opened a small little business where we do coffee and music. We started at Pskc 10 years ago when you guys were still in the kettlebell club in the warehouse. My husband had joined, and he loved the idea of kettlebells. He loved kettlebell workouts. He knew it was something that we might be able to do together. And so he got me to come down to the warehouse, and I did an intro class with Mo. And I just remember Mo like giving me some movements to do with the kettlebell, sending me out on like a 200-meter run. I remember that I almost died. And then I wanted to get more fit after that because like I didn't want to die doing a 200-meter run. I wanted to die doing something way more cool than that. So we joined, and then like I loved the competitive part of it, and so I stuck with it for like through my second pregnancy, and had a great pregnancy, great postpartum stuff. Was like still able to be super active for like several years after that, and then COVID hit, and so in 2020 that was when like the gym that I was at the time, because we had taken a hiatus and I had been at different gyms, we all got shut down, and then it took a couple of years for me to actually get back into working out at all. And in that time, like I physically deteriorated, I like mentally deteriorated. And so by the end of 2020, I was like in the worst mental shape and physical shape. And then I found out I was also pregnant. And so like 20 and 21 and 22, like I hardly was able to work out at all. And it wasn't until last year when I found out I was pregnant for the fourth time, and I was 42. And the third pregnancy had been so rough that when I found out I was pregnant with number 4, I decided that I should probably start working out again. So then I came back here, a few months pregnant. And then, I've been here for like a full year since then. My favorite CrossFit movement would have to be power cleans. Deadlifts. My least favorite would be deadlifts. Everyone would always say Murph. But the most memorable ones for me, like we do a couple here now from folks that we knew. So like when Boston comes around, or now like when Nishi comes around, those are the ones, of course, that like mean, something extra special. So that's right. So pregnancy number 3 left my hips in such dysfunction that I couldn't like stand on one leg anymore. So I couldn't do many single-legged movements anymore. So then since I've been back, I'm just now able to actually lunge with weights. And so yesterday was the first time I was able to squat with a 35-pound kettlebell. And of course, like 5 years ago, it was really no big deal. I was able to squat much heavier stuff than that. But no, since the pregnancy, it's like that's been a lot of it has just been trying to become functional. And so like box jumps, only a few weeks ago was I able to do like a burpee into a box jump again. And then today we were working on reverse lunges, and that's the next, that'll be the next thing I'm working on. It's funny because I never worked out growing up. I wasn't athletic. I wasn't into sports. Like I didn't do anything until I was in my 30s, and that's when we had started here. When I started here, all I knew were numbers on a scale. And so I was super skinny, and I had no idea until I went out for like that 200-meter run or kettlebells. I had no idea that I was as weak as I was. So that became the thing for me, was like I wanted to be strong. So I did, like once I started into CrossFit, I tend to have more upper body strength for whatever reason, probably because I have weaker hips. And so the first thing I noticed was I started getting trap muscles, and I started getting like some shoulder muscles. And I was super excited about that because I could tell that I looked strong. Fast forward like to a couple of years ago, I was so depressed too when I lost a bunch of muscle mass after baby number 3. So coming back into it, I'm finally noticing again like a little bit of muscle definition, and then also noticing like my squat form is getting better even pre-pregnancy, probably because I've just had to start completely over with it. I'm less concerned now about numbers on a scale, even though I'm a good like 10 pounds higher probably than I was like after baby number 2. Yeah, I'm starting to notice that I'm looking like I'm starting to build more muscle again, and so I'm less concerned now about like a number on a scale as a target. This becomes an easy answer. So when I first started, there were two things that got us, and it's probably the same two things that get most people. And that is, one, we walked in and there are people there, you're working out, we're all doing the same sort of thing. If you're the last to finish, you're probably getting the loudest cheers. Like, it's all the camaraderie. Like, you experience that, of course, like really from day one, you experience that. And then two, I tend to be super competitive. And so I never had a lot of success working out in my own like home garage or whatever. I just wasn't motivated and had a difficult time trying to keep myself motivated. So right, like 10 years ago, those were the things. It was like, my gosh, we found, the community element, the camaraderie element, and for me, like the competitive element. Like, it always gave me someone to chase, and I do much better if I have somebody that I can sort of chase. So that was great until 2020. And then once that happened, like we tried Zoom stuff, and we tried a lot of things to try to stay active. And no surprise, like those things didn't work for me very well. But then also, just because of everything, there were so many things going on at the same time, that like the end of 2020, mentally, like I was in probably the worst darkness that I've been in, and I couldn't find my way out of that. And then I was also pregnant too, and then again having all those other physical like troubles. By the time 21 had started and I had the baby, like I thought that stuff was going to much improve. Like, once the baby is born, like it's fine, I'll go back to normal. I've worked out through pregnancies before and I bounced back. And in 21, that didn't happen at all. It turned out that I ended up in physical therapy to try to be able to like get dressed and to use my legs better. And then I still wasn't doing very well. Like, I was trying to start the new business and trying to get back into work. And like, for me, so many things had shifted and changed. Like, I was trying to find my footing again. And it's funny because I think then I knew that if I could come back to the gym, that would then carry over into like all of these things. So as far as like what CrossFit, like how it saves me, it's funny because that like I vividly remember like what those dark years were like when I was like disconnected. And so coming back was like, first, to stay physically functional, because now I'm also an old, like I became a very geriatric pregnancy at 42. And now I'm going to be 60 and have a high school graduate. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I work out for my grandkids to stay functional with my and so I'm like, dude, I got a kid to raise. And of course, once we came back, like that then carried over into like all of the other things as well, right? What you do in here, obviously, like makes you better everywhere else. Besides, of course, just becoming physically more capable. I think it might have been Connor Sherman who had first said like, CrossFit is a great equalizer. I think he was the first person that sort of said that about CrossFit. And I feel like that's very true. The mix, you're working out next to a grandma who has like bionic joints and is in a similar, state, trying to just stay functional and keep up and not what they say, like sink into decrepitude or whatever the phrase is. And then you're working out with college level athletes who are trying to be competitive with and then like a bunch of guys from the flooring company and from the local businesses, and we're all here together. And the super cool thing, of course, is like when you're finished, like everyone has like shared in that sort of suffering, right? Everyone knows what it's like you get fist bumps and high fives, and everyone knows exactly what we've all been through together, right? But then also too, just being able to see like the other mom who's worked for 3 years to try to get a muscle up, to be in the room like, when that sort of thing happens, or even for me, like the one day I'm finally able to like, hey, I can squat with weight and my knees don't cave, to be able to, I think, share in everyone's successes as well. There aren't as many places in the world like that as you think, or as there should be. And so that just reminds me of when we first were looking to move into Portsmouth. Pskc was one of the main reasons why we decided to like to do it. And it was because of feeling that sort of sense of community and thinking like, this is community is what we needed for sure. And for some reason, like the gym and CrossFit and all of the things do it very well. And of course, once you're here, like you understand why that is. But a lot of it was like this needs to be then carried out into like don't keep it just inside of the walls. And it doesn't, and it retrains me again to like to do the same thing, to share in other people's successes, to like when folks are missing in the morning, to what I mean, like we expect that at 5:30 you know who you're supposed to see, and if you don't find them, like you're somebody's looking, somebody's sending a message, so that sort of thing where you have people who like really care about you, who really want to know how you're doing, who really want you to succeed. And again, maybe you do find that elsewhere, and maybe we just don't, like, it's not so obvious. But that's one of the things that helps like almost recalibrate me back to that, to like that sort of diversity, but still camaraderie, and that sort of like shared human element of like the hard things and the wins, and like everyone being able to be there together for that. Like it's way better than like I PR'd in my own garage. It's way better than that. So the before and the after. And for me, it's still kind of broken down into like the before and then kind of the 2020 and then the now. Because before, I just thought like, I'm not athletic. And so starting like, I remember being, again, fascinated at the things that people can do. And then once I started working at this, like the things that then I myself could do, who again would have said like, I don't know, I'm not very coordinated and I'm not very anything. So and the competitive me again, I want something to chase, and this really helped with that sort of thing. It's, as far as vices go, like it's probably a vice, and it's one of the much better ones. There are lots of worse ones. So it definitely helped like satisfy that thing in me that wants to like just go. And it was one of the few things that like my husband and I could work together, work out together. Kid can work out with us. Like one of the few things that we can all just do as a family, like whatever level we're at, we can do together. That was a big thing. Once then those few years of like just the ones for me where I was just kind of spiraling, coming back after that, my mindset, of course, was like, I need to stay healthy. I need to stay functional. I need to get grounded again. Like it was way different than like, I'm gonna, I got a muscle up and I was super excited about that. And now it is more of like learning how to stay again grounded and stay functional again, and let this thing, not for me, this is not the thing that I want to be the best at. Not anymore. This is the thing that seems to, again, carry over into all the other things that I want to be really good at. Like I want to be a better human. I want to be a good cheerleader. I also do want to be like strong, and I don't want to have like, as you age and then you think like people might have to like, take care of you. And in my situation, because I don't want my kids, because I'm going to be an old mom, I don't want my kids to have to take care of me when I'm super young. That sort of thing. So now like the longevity thing, that's more important to me right now. Like 10 years ago, I would have said like, I wouldn't know what I was capable of doing, right? Because that was a big thing. Like I would want to tell people, like, you can work out in your own garage. Theoretically. I can't, because I found that out about myself. But people can, right? And you can get strong, and you can get like mentally tough. But like if we learned anything from the year of isolation, we learned that like it's not the same, right? We've learned that like it turns out you do need people. I can talk myself out of just about anything, and I will. I think there are a lot of ways, especially Americans, feel isolated or even isolate themselves. And the gym and the community, it reminds me of like of just our humanness. And there's something super cool and probably like primal about all of us getting together and like doing physical activity together, you know. And then at the end, again, you're like high-fiving the grandma, you know what I mean, who's like made it to a 90-degree squat today, or the folks who are like able to finally pull up their body weight. And, you know, and then the big thing, you know, like the muscle ups and all the stuff, like we've all done this thing together, and we're all like, you know what I mean, like we're all growing in the ways that we need to, and we're doing it together. I think we really underestimate how important it is to like to actually be together. So that's really what I would tell most people. Like, what once you show up, I think you realize like how much you miss being like with folks. At least that's been true for me.